Our speaker is Jen Schultz, founder and leader of the Non-9 to 5. She's going to be talking about the title of her presentation is Get Results with 5 easy to implement tips to change how you relate to networking. And nobody likes networking, but when you can do it well and you have fun doing it, then it becomes a joy, and you get really to where you're looking forward to it. That seems strange at this point. She is the founder and leader of the Non-9 to 5, where she educates, trains, and coaches men and women who have a deep knowing that they are not meant for a traditional 9 to 5 job. And she teaches them how to master the art of successful self-employment. She takes a unique inner and outer approach to her work, which supports her clients in conquering limiting beliefs and managing fear. So they create aligned, self-employed work that makes a difference in the lives of others. Jen is also a speaker who has spoken for large organizations such as Google, Wix, and the University of Texas. She is a bit of a comedian, lives with her sweet dog, Honey, Hunny, in Austin, Texas. She has been self-employed for over 12 years after leaving her teaching career in New York City. Let's give a very enthusiastic, I won't say warm because it's so darn hot there, an enthusiastic welcome to Jen Schultz.
Thank you so much, Kathy. I so appreciate that. Can everyone hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up if you can.
We can hear you fine.
Thank you. And I'll just, so thank you again for that really beautiful welcome. And yes, it doesn't need to be warm, because I think at this point we're all ready to be done with the heat. If you are able to, I really would, I'm making a gentle request to please be on video. If you're on the go and you can still be on video, don't worry about your background and what's going on around you. It allows us to all connect in better. It allows me to be able to see your faces as I'm sharing. So I so appreciate that. And if you can't be on video, no worries. I totally get it. So those of you that I can see, I'm checking out all of your faces here. So thanks so much for having me. And, you know, it might seem a little bit odd that I'm your speaker, since I'm not only self-employed, but I help people come out of a 9 to 5 job, come out of employment and become self-employed. But I actually have been sharing this talk with job seekers as well as those who are stepping into self-employment, because networking is for everyone. Whether you're looking for a job, whether you are employed and your employer wants you to network, or you know networking makes sense, or you are self-employed or wanting to become self-employed. So I've been in the Zoom room now for about 15, 20 minutes or so, but and I've been kind of looking around and seeing who's been introducing themselves, who's new. But to give me a sense, so I'm clear, can you either, actually let's do this. Can you raise your digital hand if you are currently seeking employment? And that way I can get a sense of who's in the room. So if you're currently seeking employment, raise your digital hand. And I'm assuming everyone knows how to raise your digital hand. I think it's down below at the reactions button. You should see that on your screen. I don't have that up on mine because I just have sort of the slide and then I see all your faces here. So raise your hand if you're currently seeking employment, you're looking for a job.
I mean, I can't figure that out, but yes, I am. I am, but I can't figure that out.
Okay. And I think someone is unmuted. So if you can go ahead and mute yourself, that would be super helpful. Okay, great. And now what you can do for me is put your hands down and raise your hand now if you are actually currently looking to become self-employed. If you're actually looking to start a business, or you're like, hey, I've been employed, now I'm not employed. I really want to start a business. That's part of what I'm passionate about. I'm kind of looking for a job maybe at the same time as I'm wanting to be self-employed. And I'll just kind of scroll through here so I can see who's here in the Zoom room with us. Okay, so interesting. So we've got, you know, kind of differences here, which I really appreciate and love seeing. There's no right or wrong or judgment. It's just good for me to see who's here, what you're interested in, what you're looking to do. And then just if I didn't mention this, well, I didn't mention this, raise your hand. You can put your hands down now for the self-employed, but raise your hand now if you're currently in a job and you're happy, you're pleased with where you're at, you're enjoying with you're enjoying doing what you're doing. You're happy with the current job you have. Okay, got it. Awesome. So from there, I'm going to put in the chat. So you see this QR code, which you could actually scan off of your computer with your phone. But I'm going to put a chat into the chat is a link to my LinkedIn. I'd love to connect with each of you there. If you're on LinkedIn, I imagine you are. If you're either seeking a job or have a job or looking to be self-employed, but go ahead and click that link and connect with me on LinkedIn. And what I want to do first here is tell you a little bit about myself. So we're going to go back about 12 or so years ago. And I was a teacher I was a full-time teacher working in the education system, obviously. And I was teaching for a high-performing charter school in the South Bronx of New York City. So I am a New Yorker. That's where I'm from originally. I've been in Austin now. It'll be 8 years next week. So 8 years next week is my anniversary here in Austin. So I'm teaching at this high-performing charter school in New York City. I have a steady paycheck. I have benefits. I knew what to expect every day for the most part. You know, you don't know what's going to go on with your students, but you have a schedule. You know what time you've got to get your students, what time everything is happening at. Yet while I was doing that, I was having this feeling, and that's all I could describe was I was having this feeling that I was meant to go out on my own. And that's all I kind of had this feeling like I'm meant to go out on my own, but I don't know how I would ever even do that. And I don't think I'm even good enough to do that. And in the school, there were a lot of rules. There was that, kind of like that buzz phrase, a lot of bureaucratic red tape, which I'm sure we're all familiar with. At some point of our lives, we've all experienced that in some sort of job or something. And I also began to notice that I had skills and strengths and even gifts that were very natural to me, but I couldn't actually use or tap into traditional teaching. So what happened is on a Monday morning, I walked into the school. I took a meeting with the principal, sat down with her, and I gave her 2 weeks notice. And I was there for another 2 weeks. And when I walked out that school door on that last Monday, that last day that I was there was no more paycheck, done. The minute I walked out that door, no more health benefits. There was no other work lined up to create income generation. And now, we fast forward approximately 12 years. At the end of September, it will be a full decade that I have been educating, coaching, training people how to create self-employment, how they can shift from a 9-to-5 job into successful self-employment, how they can tap into what their unique skills are, their strengths, their gifts, doing work, self-employed work that they are passionate about and that makes a difference in the lives of others while creating a healthy income for themselves. And within the work that I do at the non-9-to-5, I provide 7 core teachings to the folks I work with. One of those teachings is entitled Easily Attract Clients with Heart and Soul Marketing. Now, today, with all of you here, I'm going to be speaking to networking as an essential part of Easily Attract Clients with Heart and Soul Marketing. Now, for you, the individual you networking may not be to attract clients, may not be to market in that traditional sense. It might be, it might not be. It might be to make connections. So I'm going to be sharing with you 5 easy to implement tips to change how you relate to networking. And kind of going back here, you can 100%, 110% use the tips I'm going to share with you when it comes to networking, whether networking for you is the purpose of employment, finding that next job, finding that job that you really want, that you really love, for self-employment, connections, just putting yourself in a networking atmosphere to connect with other people, to see what you have in common with others, for the sake of partnerships, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So let me ask another raise your hand question here. Raise your hand if you've ever showed up to any type of networking event, whether virtual or in person. You've showed up only to want to run out the door and get the heck out of there. So raise your hand if that is true for you. My hand is staying up because that has absolutely been true for me. I have been networking now well over 10 years, and there have been many events I was like, what am I doing here? This isn't for me. I want to get out. Awesome. So I know that I am in good company. Great. So go ahead and put those hands down. Now, well, I probably should have said, leave your hand up if. So you're gonna have to click it back up if this is true for you. So raise your hand and or leave it back up if networking has ever felt intimidating. So here you are in a room full of people, whether it's Zoom, whether it's in person, and you're like, I don't know anyone. Where do I go? Who do I talk to? This is gosh darn intimidating. Yep, beautiful. Okay. Leave your hand up if networking has ever felt like super hard work for very, very little return. Super hard work for little return. I love seeing the hands coming up, going down, coming up, going down. Awesome. You can all put your hands down now. So I'm going to give you a little tidbit of some interesting, let's say, psychology piece here, I'll call it. So one of the most influential psychologists of the 20th century is someone by the name of Abraham Maslow. And Abraham Maslow designed what's referred to as Maslow's hierarchy of needs. So if you went to college at some point, you might have learned about Maslow's hierarchy of needs. You might have learned of it outside of education, but he's one of the most influential. So at some point you may have heard of him. And in Maslow's hierarchy of needs, he shows that all human beings have 5 innate needs. And these are 5 innate needs that we all strive for as human beings. We all have these in common. Out of those 5, the third one is connection. So the third of those 5 is connection. And human beings are hardwired for connection. There's no way around it. We are hardwired to connect with others. We are hardwired to connect with nature, to connect with animals. We are hardwired to connect in general. And so you might think, I know I've thought this, well, okay, so if all of us as human beings are hardwired for connection, shouldn't networking, because networking is the act of just simply connecting, shouldn't just come easy for all of us? Well, for most people, it certainly does not. So no, it wouldn't come easy for all of us. Networking, and this is really important here, is a skill. Skills need to be learned. We aren't born with skills. We need to learn skills, practice them, and master them. So like any skill, networking takes time to master. So in order, for example, to be a communications expert, a tech or IT specialist, a salesperson, a media marketing expert, a customer relations, customer service expert, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera, you need to learn skills to master to really be able to say, hey, I'm an expert in this area. I know I am. I've been practicing these skills. I've been doing this. And those skills, as you are learning skills and practicing, no matter what age you are, whether you're in your 20s or you're in your 90s, we're always learning new skills that we need to master and practice. And that makes us get better and better and better at our craft, whatever that is. So again, this morning, I'm going to share with all of you 5 easy to implement tips that will change how you relate to networking and also allow you to make more fulfilling connections when you network that can lead you to more professional and personal growth. So this next slide up here, this is totally up to you. So I have a very mini, like a handful of pages, mini PDF ebook that I've written. It's called The Number One Step to Staying with Your Business Mission. If you'd like to receive this, and I also send out weekly emails. So if you opt in for this, you'll get this PDF ebook, and then you'll get weekly emails from me. If you'd like to receive this, go ahead in the chat and you can private chat me, and I'll make sure I will save it before the end of the Zoom today. Put it in the chat, and then I'll send that off to you. So we are going to dive into tip number 1 out of 5 tips. And I'm actually right now going to stop my screen share, and then I will come back to it. Okay, awesome. Let me just see where I'm at. Wonderful. So again, if your hand's up, feel free to put your hand down, but that's totally up to you. I'm not asking any other hand raising questions right now. Okay, so tip number 1 in the 5 easy to implement tips that will change how you relate to networking. So number 1 is entitled Approach Networking with Intention, Not Expectation. And I absolutely welcome you to jot that down. So tip number 1, approach networking with intention, not expectation. So intention, not expectation. So if you approach any networking, again, whether virtual or in person, with an expectation of a specific outcome. So for example, I'm going to go to this networking event and I want to get an interview for XYZ job. Or I'm going to go to this networking event and I want to land a client. What's actually happening is that you are creating an attachment to a very specific outcome. There's this attachment to, if I go to this event, I have to get this thing. Now, the problem with this is that we actually have zero control over this type of very specific outcome. We can't control who's at the event. We can't control how the connection goes with the person that we're talking to, if we're talking to someone. And if you're trying to force an outcome, a specific outcome, or you are attached to that outcome, more than likely what will happen is because of the attachment or because of the force, that outcome is just not going to come to fruition. People can sense, people can sniff. We all can do this ourselves too, when another person is trying really hard to get a specific outcome, or they're trying to get something from us, and it feels really unnatural. And if that person feels forced, they feel your attachment, and then it just really doesn't usually work out so well. So that's going to lead us into tip number 2. So instead of having an expectation, we want to set an intention. So tip number 2, and again, I invite you to write this down or type it, however you're taking notes. Tip number 2 is approach networking with a specific and doable intention. So once again, that's approach networking with a specific and doable intention. So, excuse me, while we can't control the outcome, what we can absolutely do, and we really should do, is set an intention before the event, virtual or in person. So for myself, and I've been networking now for over a decade now, what I started incorporating probably about 8 or 9 years ago is that before I go to an event, again, virtual or in person, I block out 10 minutes for myself. And I open up my notebook, and I'm someone who is a writer downer. So I've got my notebook. I really appreciate pen to paper, the kinesthetic act of actually writing. And I write down in my notebook what my intention is. Now, for myself personally, this doesn't have to be for you, I am someone who has a connection to God. You don't have to have that. That doesn't need to be true for you. Or it could be a different language for you. This is just my personal here. And in my writing, I will actually share with God what I'd like to experience from the event that I'm going to. And notice I said I share what I would like to experience, not what I expect to get or expect to receive or even expect to experience. So an example of this could be, I will write down actually in my notebook, God, I would like to meet one person at this event, just one, that I can connect with when it comes to speaking engagements. So that intention, it's specific and it's doable. So it's very specific, speaking engagements and one person, right? One person for speaking, one person to connect with out of a room of 25 people. That's pretty doable. I can talk with people and connect with them. And excuse me, that's specific. And that's, sorry, I rearranged everything. One person is doable. I'm not saying I want to connect with 10 people, one person. And then speaking engagements, that's specific. So what this then does for myself personally, and then you would choose whatever that specific and doable intention is for you, it sets us up for success. Because then when we go to the event, we know where to focus our energy and to connect with people. So now here's the thing about this though, is we can't control if we do meet that someone who can connect. So coming back to using myself as an example, I can't control if I'm going to meet someone who can connect me with a speaking engagement. Yet what I'm doing is I'm telling God, I'm telling my higher source in my life what I'm intending on. And I'm staying open to whatever is going to be shown to me, to whatever it is I'm going to receive at that event. No attachment, no force, because I honestly have no idea who I'll meet. And I think this is a really great note to make as to how I'm even here with all of you here today. So earlier this year, I met, and I'm sure you all are familiar with, I met Madeline Butler, who is part of Job Seekers Network. And I met Madeline at a networking event. I think it was probably around March of this year. And before I went to that networking event, I set my intention and I wrote down that I wanted to meet one person who could connect me with potential speaking engagements, because speaking is part of what I do. It's my natural gift and strength and what I love doing with others and putting out into the world and part of my business. And Madeline happened to be sitting at this large round table that I was at, and she talked about what she did. And I thought, I think maybe I should connect with her. And at the end of the event, I stayed in my intention of connecting with her. You know, she was talking with other people were talking with me, but I kept my eyes out and I finally had a moment to talk with her, connected with her. She then brought me on to speak to Job Seekers Network. And then she recommended I connect with Shannon. And that's how I am here with all of you today. And that's the power of setting an intention. It's the power of staying open. It's the power of going, here's my intention. Let me see who is here, making those connections and staying open. And it's important, it's important not just with networking, but in our lives, whether work or personal, that we practice remaining open and releasing expectations. Because when it really comes down to it, we don't have much control over a lot of things in our lives. We just don't. But for those of us who maybe relate to being perfectionists, for example, we want to control the outcome. We want to control everything, because if we can control it, we know what's going to happen. We can make it happen. But it's a real practice to let go of that and release that perfectionism, because stuff is going to happen that we can't control. And when we go to these events, releasing expectations, we hold the intention, whatever it was that we wrote down and set for ourselves, and we stay open and excited to meet people. So being open and excited to meeting other people is going to lead us into tip number 3. Tip number 3 is approach networking from a space of lightheartedness, curiosity, and connection. Approach networking from a space of lightheartedness, curiosity, and connection. So I've mentioned this several times, and we all know this. We're all human beings. We have things that happen in our lives that we can't control. We have things that happen in our professional lives that we can't control. I'm also really aware that earlier this year, and I don't know if it's stopped, there have been massive layoffs this year. And when things are happening in our lives that are far less than ideal, it can feel daunting to do a lot of different things in our lives and focus on finding our next job and making sure that we're paying our bills, etc. So there's a reason why I'm sharing that as we step into tip number 3. When you come to a networking event, you're coming with your whole self, meaning whatever's going on in your life, personally or professionally, hasn't just magically disappeared. Right now, you each are sitting with wherever you're located, or maybe you're standing, or maybe you're walking somewhere, maybe you're in your car. And I have a feeling that you have a lot on your mind. There are things on your mind that you are worried about, that you are concerned about, that you have doubts about, that give you anxiety, that keep you up at night, and maybe the job is part of that, or something more personal to you, whatever that is. When you step into a networking event, whether in person or virtual, you want to begin to train yourself to take whatever those hardships are that you are currently dealing with. And you might be stepping into an event and maybe someone just cut you off on the highway. Or maybe you were running late and you ran a red light, for example, anything. And now you're coming to this networking event with an intention. There's a purpose. That's a lot to have to go, okay, I can't think about this thing. I've got to be here in this networking event. But what we want to do is train our mind to be able to take those hardships, whatever it is we're dealing with, like a box. Picture Amazon just delivered a box on your front doorstep. We want to take those things that just happened or are happening and go, okay, for this 1 hour or for this 2 hours, however long the event is, all this strife that's happening for me, the adversity I'm facing, I'm putting it in this box and I'm putting it over here just for this 1 to 2 hours, because it's going to be there after that event. If you can do that, and I even recommend, actually, if you know you have a lot, going like this. Actually, let's all do this right now. Can you all put your hands in front of me like you're holding a box? Let's do it together. Okay, close your eyes. Mine are closed. Hope yours are too. I want you just to briefly think about all the stuff that's on your mind, all the hardships you're dealing with. And as you're picturing those things, picture your brain emptying them into the box. Your brain is emptying all that stuff into the box. Let your brain empty it into the box. It's coming out of your brain. It's going into the box. Now, there might be more stuff, but go ahead. Keep holding that box. Open your eyes. Now, move the box all the way to the side and let it go. And I'll come back. So you just let that box go for this time that we are all here together, the time that we have remaining. It's going to be there when we're done here. So when you put that box to the side, you are actually allowing yourself to step into this space of networking from lightheartedness, which for many of us can feel kind of difficult to feel lighthearted with lots of things going on in our lives, in our world. But you are allowing yourself, you're giving yourself the permission. It's okay to feel light during this event. It's okay to be curious about who's in the room, who can I talk to. It's okay to connect with others. And when you allow yourself to connect with others, and you can allow yourself, and this might sound kind of funny, to see networking as kind of like a fun gathering, a party, where you're in this room, you're like, whoa, I don't know any of these people. And none of these people know me. I can get to know people and just ask them questions about themselves. Like I'm at a cocktail party and I'm just mingling around and talking with people. You get to meet brand new people. You get to hear people share interesting stories about their lives. You get to share interesting tidbits about your life, your work, what you're passionate about, those folks as well. And you have the honor, and it really is, and I want to really stress this, you have the honor to meet human beings that you perhaps would not have met if you didn't step into that room or even into that Zoom room. You get to enjoy time with these people and connect with them. So I want to do something else that might seem a little odd. It might feel a little funny. Like if the box thing felt funny to you, this might feel funny at all. So I'm just giving you that little PSA there. So I'm using some specific words here: lightheartedness, curiosity, and connection. So what I want us all to do is, in a moment, we're all going to take a couple of deep breaths in, and I'm going to lead us through these deep breaths. And I'm going to lead us through this, so you just have to follow my voice. I'm going to actually have us all say together, my intention is to be lighthearted, curious, and connect with others. You're welcome to write that sentence down if you want to. You don't have to. But again, it's my intention is to be lighthearted, curious, and connect with others. Okay, so I'm going to have us all do this closing our eyes again. And right now, make sure nothing is in your hands, that your hands are either in your lap or they're on top of your table, wherever you're sitting. And with your eyes closed, we're going to take 3 deep breaths in. And the way we're going to do this is we're going to take a really deep breath in through our nose, and then we're going to push it out of our mouths. And guess what? You are all muted, so no one can hear you pushing that breath out. You can just push it out as hard as you can. And then I'm going to have us say the statement, my intention is to be lighthearted, curious, and connect with others. So go ahead and take that deep breath in through your nose and let it out and really push it out. And again, deep breath in and push that deep breath out. And one more time for the power of 3, deep breath in. And push that deep breath out. Eyes are still closed. On the count of 3, we're each going to say, my intention is to be lighthearted, curious, and connect with others. 1, 2, 3. My intention is to be curious. Excuse me. Let me stop. I messed it up. Rewind. On the count of 3, my intention, excuse me. Wow, I'm having a moment. Give me 1 second. Great. On the count of 3. 1, 2, 3. My intention is to be lighthearted, curious, and connect with others. Go ahead and open your eyes. So just sense into, how did it feel to take those 3 deep breaths? How did it feel to use that language? And if you're having a feeling, a sense, pop that into the chat. You can even see with me how my mind went blank for some reason, even though I've given this talk before. I'm really here connected with you, but I could see my mind getting jumbled. So I just stopped and I took my own deep breath. And then once I took that deep breath, I was able to actually say the statement that I know and that I've created before in the past. So Kathy, thank you so much. It made you smile. That's really beautiful to receive. Angela says, relaxing and optimistic. Awesome. 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 Great. Great. So taking a deep breath, connecting in, intending on intending on stepping into an event, being lighthearted, curious, and connecting with others shifts our energy. It really shifts our energy. It won't solve the hardships that you're dealing with, but remember, you've taken that box and you've put it to the side just for that 1 to 2 hours. It will be there for you, but you're setting yourself up in a way to connect with other people. So tip number 4 might sound like a funny one, might not. Tip number 4 is don't worry about business cards. Whether looking for employment or self-employed, people have business cards. My tip is don't worry about them. Now, let me tell you why. So in my first 2 years of business, I didn't have any business cards. But like I've shared already, I set intentions. I would set intentions when I would go to an event to connect with others. And what I started to do was that whenever I met someone that I wanted to connect with, that I felt a genuine connection with at an event that I was networking at, I didn't have a business card to give them. When I would connect with that person, I would take the actions myself. I would never put it on them. I would take the actions myself and get their contact information. So whenever I meet someone that I want to connect with at a networking event, for whatever reason, instead of giving my business card to them and then expecting them to reach out to me, I get their contact information, whether they're giving me their business card or somehow giving me their contact information. So if you have a business card, yeah, you can always give your business card to someone, sure, but it's not needed. It's not necessary, because you're going to intentionally reach out and follow up with them, right? You're going to take the action yourself, not put it on that person. Within the non-9 to 5, there's something I teach that I refer to as holding the reins to your business. So like being on a horse, whether you've been on a horse or not, we all know that there are reins to hold on a horse. And when someone is on that horse and they're holding those reins, that's helping them steer the horse. It's telling the horse how fast to go, how slow to go, to stop, etc. When we talk about the non-9 to 5, and I teach to this, holding the reins to your business, if you're riding a horse and you're holding those reins, you are steering that horse. That horse is not steering you. So you want to hold the reins to your business. So when you are networking, if you have business cards, great. If someone asks you for your business card, great, give it to them. But if you are being intentional, which I've been talking about here, and you're connecting with someone, ask them for their contact information. And if you don't have a card, because you don't need to go around and make them, if someone wants your contact information, you can just send it to them. You can just, you can email it to them. You can text it to them. Something that I do too is that if someone else doesn't have a business card and I know I want to connect with them, I pull out my phone, and this works really well for me, and it might work well for you. I pull up my phone, I pull up my email, so I use Outlook. I pull up a blank email, I email it to myself, so I put my email address in there. And in the subject heading, I put their name and the event I met them at, and I literally will hand them my phone. And in the body of the email, say, will you put in the body of the email your number and your email address, and I will follow up with you and reach out. So don't worry about business cards. You don't actually need them. You really don't need them at all, ever. I think the last time I had my business cards reprinted was pre-pandemic. I know that, pre-2020. And so this is going to lead us into tip number 5 here. So tip number 5 is another maybe funny sounding one. It's called don't let stranger danger hold you back. Don't let stranger danger hold you back. So what do I mean by this? Okay, raise your hand, whether physical or digital, you choose. If you ever either remember learning as a kid the concept of stranger danger, or perhaps you've taught your children the concept of stranger danger. Yes, I would sense that pretty much all of us are familiar with this. So you can go ahead and put your hands down. So we know that stranger danger is taught to keep children safe, right? We teach children, don't trust strangers, don't talk to strangers, don't walk with strangers, don't go anywhere with strangers. It makes sense. It's taught for safety reasons. However, as adults, we generally know how to keep ourselves safe. Yet this concept of stranger danger can seep into networking, again, whether in person or virtual. And this can come in many different forms. It can sound like you saying to yourself, I'm too quiet. I'm too shy. I can't talk to anyone. I'm introverted. I don't know what to say. I'm not bold enough like other people. I'm not aggressive enough. I'm not loud enough. What if I say something and the person doesn't like me, or they think I'm stupid? What if I don't even like people? I'd rather be home with my cat, my dog, my partner, my child. What if I feel uncomfortable? What if I don't know who to talk to, etc.? Because when we're in a new environment and there are strangers around us, we can feel nervous, intimidating, not sure. We may not feel confident in ourselves, and it's all pretty natural. But we really want to break through that. It is not helpful. We can be really good too. I think we're experts as adults with coming up with reasons as to why we should not connect with other people. So when you find yourself at a networking event and you don't know who to talk to or how to strike up a conversation, and you see yourself going towards your cell phone to just be on it, maybe you're standing in the room and you're like, I'm going to text someone, or I'm going to pretend I'm doing something, or I'm going to go on LinkedIn and whatever it is that you're doing, you're like, I don't know where to go or who to talk to. Or you're like, oh, look, there's the buffet table. I'm going to go eat the food. Like, that'll give me something to do. Or I think I just need to go to the bathroom. We come up with all these reasons. If you find yourself starting to go into that direction, it's natural, it's normal, there's nothing wrong with you at all. Here's what I want you to do. And this might feel like a bit of a challenge, but here's what I want you to do. Notice how you're feeling. Name it in your head. I'm feeling nervous. I'm feeling intimidated. I'm feeling my introversion really come out. I'm feeling unsure. I'm feeling scared. Whatever that feeling is for you, name it in your head, recognize it. Just the sheer, taking that sheer moment, the sheer fact of recognizing it and naming it, it's going to start to diminish it. Because you're like, okay, this is how I feel right now. And there's nothing wrong with it. Then, and this, I'm going to paint the picture in a in-person networking event. Here's the challenge. I'm telling you, if you do this, it will just make so much sense, and it will really, really pay off. You stand in the room, you stand in the networking room. Let's paint the picture where there's groups of people talking, there's people walking around. You just stand there. Stand in the room, and you're going to start to look and observe. And you're going to see, oh, that person's talking to that person. Oh, I really like that person's scarf. Oh, look at the color of that person's shirt. And you're going to look around. And you're even going to look at the room. Oh, I noticed that the wall is painted this light blue. I really like light blue. Oh, look at the architecture in here. What you're doing in this moment is that you're actually presencing yourself, and you're telling the mind, you're telling the fight, flight, freeze response that you are actually safe. There's nothing wrong. Because those feelings will be drummed up because the mind is telling you you're not safe. But that's not true. That's way back in caveman times. We don't need that. You are safe. You're in a room full of people, but you're feeling nervous or unsure, overwhelmed because of what the mind is saying. When you presence the feeling, you get connected to the feeling, you get connected to what's going on in the room, you get connected to what the room looks like, you're actually starting to diminish those feelings. And then what you can do is, let's say you see someone with a scarf that you really like. You don't even know the person, you've never met them, but something about them catches your eye. A scarf, a hat, an article of clothing. The reason why I go to clothing, it's pretty easy for us to notice. And you like, wow, I really like that person's scarf. This now gives you the opportunity to go up to that person and say, hi, I'm so sorry to interrupt you if that person's in the middle of getting food or, doing whatever. I just want to tell you, I really like your scarf. May I ask where you got it? So that conversation now may start flowing into something more. It may not, but the fact that you went up to that person and you struck up that conversation in a bit of an easier way to do it starts to have you feel, and you might not feel it right away, but it starts to have you feel empowered. It starts to tell you that you are capable to be in this room with these strangers and actually connect with them. So you notice the room and you notice the people. And I'll share one more example with this, which can feel maybe a little bit more intimidating, but I've been practicing doing this for years, and it has never failed me. Let's say you see a group of 3 people talking, and you're standing there like, oh my gosh, I'm not talking to anyone. You can go up to those 3 people and very gently say, I'm so sorry to interrupt your conversation. I just got here. I actually don't know anyone. May I join you in your conversation? 9.5 times out of 10, they're going to say sure, because most people are also just getting to know new people. The worst thing that could happen, and this is, to me, this is not the worst, but is the worst thing that I think could happen would be the person who goes, oh, we're actually having a private conversation, because maybe they happen to be through people who know each other and they're talking about something important and they happen to be at the event. And they would just kindly say, oh, we're actually having a private conversation. Okay, no problem. You go find someone else. You go find another group of people. So no need to let stranger danger take you out. So I'm going to recap the 5 tips I just shared with you. So I'm going to pop back on over and do a screen share here. So recapping, let me move this over. Okay, so recapping tip number 1, approach networking with intention, not expectation. Tip number 2, approach networking with a specific and doable intention, right? So what is that specific intention? How is it doable for you? Specific, Jen's looking to connect for speaking engagements. Doable, only connect with one person. I can do that. Tip number 3, approach networking from a space of lightheartedness, curiosity, and connection. Whatever's happening in your life is happening in your life. You put everything into that box as much as you can, and you put that box to the side so you can allow yourself to be lighthearted when you step into that room. You get curious about people, and you allow yourself to connect with others. You take deep breaths where you need to. You repeat the statement I shared with you that you are there to connect with people from a space of lighthearted curiosity and connection. Tip number 4, no need to worry about business cards. You don't need them. If you have them, great, but don't go out and make them for the sheer fact that you feel that you must have them. There are many other ways to get people's contact information. And if I didn't say this clearly enough, because it's coming to my mind now, don't expect people to reach out to you. Hold the reins, like I shared before. You reach out to them. You get their contact information and reach out to them. And then tip number 5, don't let stranger danger hold you back. So this guy looks like a stranger to me. When you're at a networking event, he's most likely not going to be there. Yes, you'll be in a room with strangers, people you haven't met before, but we don't need to let that concept we were taught as kids to interfere when it comes to networking for the purpose of growing ourselves professionally as well as personally. So I want to share with you briefly, for those of you, and even if not, it's always cool to be able to share this stuff, 2 folks that I've worked with over my 10 years of being the founder of the non-9-to-5 and supporting folks in stepping out of 9-to-5 typical employment into self-employment. So the first gal is Alicia, who happens to be local here in Austin. If you ever go to the I think she's at both the Mueller and Lakeline Farmers Market. But if you ever go to the Mueller Farmers Market, I believe she's there on Saturdays, and she sells these giant chocolate chip cookies. We worked together for 4 years. And over those 4 years, she quit her 9-to-5 job, which had nothing to do with cookies. It was in the healthcare industry. She went full-time in her business. She tripled her business income. She has her own commercial space. So she started baking in her home, then renting space in a commercial kitchen. Now she has her own kitchen and she has a full team. And she has products now in Central Market. So in different places in Texas, and we're all familiar with Central Market, I'm sure. And then Nicole happens to be a New Yorker, and we worked together for about 2 years. She happened to be a full-time teacher like I had once upon a time. And during the course of our work, she left her full-time job. She landed very aligned part-time work, because the folk that I work with all come in either having a full-time job or a part-time job. And while you're building your business, you want to have income coming in from some other way, shape, or form. So with my help, Nicole got a part-time job that was a hop, skip, and a jump away from her home. She was able to walk to it and start building her business more and more and more, started to generate more money in her business than her part-time job. And I taught her how to have really confident and deeply connected sales conversations where she was able to enroll clients feeling, a lot of ease doing so. So as a gift that I want to share with you, if it's something that makes sense for you, and I'll put the link in the chat for a moment. So this is really up to you. I've got in my calendar 3 slots open over this month in September for a 1-hour complimentary call with me. Those calls are valued at $300. And if you're someone that you have this deep desire, you feel called, You have this kind of in your heart, knowing that you're really meant to be out on your own doing self-employment. I welcome you to apply for one of these calls. And again, in a moment, I'll put the link in the chat. You'll fill out an application, and I will review that application to make sure that it does make sense for us to connect, and to make sure that it does make sense for you to take one of these 3 slots that I have open. And then when we connect on the call, I'm going to listen really deeply to what's not working, where you're struggling. I'm going to support you with potential next best steps. My aim on the call is also to make sure that you feel seen and heard, so you don't feel alone with whatever it is you're struggling with when it comes to self-employment. And then we'll see if the work I do is a match for you. We'll see if the 9 to 5 programs make sense for you. So actually, this QR code is up. If you have your phone, you can scan it. I need to put the link in the chat. So I just stopped that screen share. So bear with me so I can get the link. Okay, I'm copying it. And let's do this here. I'm going to do this actually. I'm going to bring this back up. Slideshow, okay, current slide. And now that way you can see it. I'm chatting everyone. And there is that link. So you can click that link. That's going to bring you to an application form. Or that QR code works. I do need to get your application in no later by tomorrow at 5 p.m. Central. And then since it's the weekend, I'll be reviewing them on Monday. And you'll either hear back from me by end of day Monday, or I would say end of day Tuesday, the latest. But make sure you have that in by 5 p.m. Central. And again, sense if this is for you. It may not be for you. That's totally okay. But I want to be able to provide you all with a gift of this 1 hour time with me. So, we can connect and we can see if the work I do is a match for you. So now I'm going to stop the share, and I want to open up to any questions. Does anyone have any questions? Or it doesn't even have to just be a question. It could be an aha or an insight, something you received that perhaps you were like, oh man, I've thought of that before, or oh wow, I never thought of that before. And you can just go ahead and raise your hand and I'll call on you. Bring my sort of teacherness back to me, calling on folks. Yeah, let's go to Kathy and then Shannon. And I like how Shannon had like 2 hands up, the digital and the physical hand. Yeah, go ahead, Kathy.
I was just going to say, we had a recruiter one time who said, if you're really nervous, especially if you go to a place that's being sponsored by a company, there's a meeting and there's a sponsor, that one good thing to do to start off is to just go up to the sponsor table and just say, I want to thank you for sponsoring this. You've got a great turnout. Now, when you sponsored this, did you have some expectation of whatever, finding people for jobs, or build getting more exposure for your business, or what was your reason for sponsoring it? And so you're talking to them, but you're also you're finding out what their purpose was in doing it. And it could be that then you can help them out in some way. And if they say, yeah, we're actually looking for a bunch of developers because we've got some openings in that. And well, I'm not a developer, but I'm a member of a bunch of networking groups, and I'd be happy to pass that information along. Let me see what I can do to help you. And so helping other people is a lot easier for us than promoting ourselves.
That's right.
It just kind of flips the intention.
Yeah, that's a great tip. And it makes so much sense, and that table's there. You can go speak to them. It's kind of an easy way to go speak to someone, because they're sponsoring the event, right? So I'm sure they're wanting, that table, especially, they want to talk to folks there. So yeah, I so appreciate that. It's a great, great tip. Thank you. Let's go to Sherry.
Yeah, I just wanted to express a quick word of gratitude, Jen, to thank you for the grounding activities, helping me reconnect the dots. I teach grounding all the time and had forgotten to apply them to my own particular situation. So thanks for the memory jog.
Yeah, you're welcome. It's funny when there are things that we teach others and we teach them well, we can forget to do them for ourselves. And I find myself in that bucket plenty of times for sure. So I appreciate that so much. Yeah. Yeah. Shannon.
I am going to steal a little bit from Kathy because I've heard this for so many times over the years. I would bet that most of the people here today would consider themselves introverts. So when going to a networking event, maybe like a network after work, where there's just people from all walks of life, and you're an introvert, maybe take somebody with you. I was my husband's wing woman because he's the introvert and I'm the extrovert. If you're both introverts, that's fine. I love what Kathy says is, you're both introverts, you're talking, and you see that other introvert over there hiding behind the fern, with their drink. Invite them over and say, hey, we're talking about this, or is this interesting to you? Whatever. But, if you feel like you can't go by yourself, see if you can find somebody that's willing to be your wing person.
Wing person. Yeah. Yeah. And in regards to the introversion, so, and this made me think of this when you were sharing. So it's interesting. While I'm personally not an introvert, I'm what's referred to as an HSP. I'm a highly sensitive person. And I learned this about myself 10 years ago. And, which basically means, and you might be a highly sensitive person yourself, if you're actually curious to find out, because you could be, I'm going to put a link in the chat to where you can take a quiz to see. It's hsperson.com. And I learned that I was highly sensitive a decade ago, and I've been working with a mentor, training myself as a highly sensitive leader. Now, I'm a little bit odd because most highly sensitives are introverted. I'm in like this weird, like 5% or some really, really weird percentage where I'm an extroverted, highly sensitive. However, as a highly sensitive person, your nervous system is coded differently than 80% of the population. You take in stimulation at a much deeper level. So when you're in a room full of a ton of people, it's like, whoa, and you take that when your nervous system is so overly stimulated, and then you're an introverted person, that can feel like a lot. So maybe go with someone that though you're not just going to stick in the corner with them the whole time, right? Because we want to step out and talk to people, but you can go with someone, do the grounding to support yourself that, Sherry mentioned before that I led you all in. There are ways to network as an introvert. And as introverts too, you do well with smaller groups of people or one-on-one. So when I go to networking myself, I'm with larger people, but if I find one person to connect with, I really enjoy talking with that one person, rather a group of say 6 people. It's too much for me, but I'll talk with that one person. And then when I have the sense of that our conversation is kind of concluded, because we all can intuitively feel like, oh, we don't really have that much else to say, then you can sort of, excuse yourself and go on somewhere else at the event. Shannon, thanks for putting the live link in the chat because mine is definitely not clickable. So I hope that you all have connected with me on LinkedIn. And if you haven't, my name is Jen Schultz. It's SHULTZ, JEN, 1N and Jen. And please feel free to connect with me there. If you are someone who is leaning towards self-employment, please fill out an application. I will be reviewing them next week and getting back to you by Tuesday. And I really appreciate all of you being here today and allowing me to share with you my knowledge on networking and connecting with others.